So, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Unpacking Possibility. I'm your host, Traci Stein, as always. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm so excited about our guest today. You're going to be fascinated by what he has to talk about. My guest is Robert Waggoner, and he is an expert on something called lucid dreaming. So, if you've ever had a dream where you have felt a sudden awareness that you were dreaming within the dream, this is something that you've already experienced. But if not, Robert's going to teach us how you can experience something like lucid dreaming. So Robert, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Traci.
Robert, I'm going to give you a super brief introduction, but then I'm going to ask you to talk more about yourself and your work and how you got into this. So Robert Waggoner wrote the acclaimed book, Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, and the award-winning book, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, with Caroline McCready. A lucid dreamer since 1975, Waggoner has logged more than 1,000 lucid dreams. He co-edits the free magazine, Lucid Dreaming Experience, and serves on the executive committee of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. So again, Robert, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks.
It's such a fascinating topic. And I'm thinking the best place to start maybe would be to have you explain what lucid dreaming is, just a kind of in a nutshell.
Right. So a lucid dream is any dream in which you realize within the dream that you're dreaming. You literally know this is a dream. And I recall that this happened to me when I was about 10 years old, spontaneously. I was in the public library looking at books, and all of a sudden I see this little baby Tyrannosaurus Rex walking through the book stacks. And even though I was 10 years old, I thought, wait a second, dinosaurs are extinct. How can this be? And at that moment, I thought, oh, this must be a dream. I'm dreaming this. And I told myself, if this is a dream, then I can wake up. Told myself to wake up, and I sure did. So at that time, I didn't realize all the possibilities of lucid dreaming, but I understood this idea that you could become aware within the dream that you're dreaming.
It's really amazing. And it's amazing that you had this sudden awareness at such a young age. Is that common?
You know, it's interesting. There was a scientific study, a survey by Ursula Voss in Germany, where she went to a school, ages 6 to 19 years, and asked all the students, have you ever become aware of dreaming while in the dream, where you knew it was a dream? And she found that 51% of this group had already had a lucid dream. But the amazing thing, I think, from my perspective, was of the 8-year-olds, already 25% had had a lucid dream. But of course, in society, we don't talk much about dreaming, let alone lucid dreaming. And of course, these 8-year-olds hadn't been taught. They just had it naturally, spontaneously. So I think it's something that happens naturally and spontaneously. It's just that in our society, we don't discuss it.
It's really amazing. And it's so true because as I'm thinking back to my own childhood and even, having worked with child patients, I don't ever remember the topic coming up, either I myself bringing it up or parents or teachers or even patients of mine bringing it up. It's just so interesting. In other cultures, are people more likely to talk about dreaming?
Right. There are some societies and cultures that are very dream focused. A lot of natives cultures had dreams as a central thesis. So, like in America, 300 years ago, when the colonists came and were on the East Coast, they found that there were tribes over in the Delaware area that they did not pick their chief by a democratic vote. Instead, they dreamt who should be the next chief of the tribe. And so in those societies, they had a dreamocracy. Whatever the dreams called forward as the leader became the leader. And so you can think of cultures throughout times really focusing on dreaming, but in the modern age, we just haven't done it as much.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And later, I'm going to ask you a question that I think will tie into that because, I think of dreaming as an aspect of psi. I want to get into some of the other questions I have for you about lucid dreaming and some of the other things you want to share, but I do want to make sure we come back to that. Um, so you've described what lucid dreaming is, that it can start very early, that a lot of children have it, that it's more commonly discussed in other cultures. How common is it for people to report having had a lucid dream?
Right. There's been some surveys of college students, and normally they find about 70% report having at least one lucid dream, and then about 25% report having at least one lucid dream a month. So that's what we
Wow.
would call a frequent lucid dreamer. But in the population as a whole, society as a whole, normally you see about 50% can report at least one lucid dream.
That's actually, I think, more common than people who will not have had a lucid dream will think it is. I think lucid dreamers will say, "Yeah, they won't be surprised by that."
Right, of course. It's out there. Again, we just have a culture that doesn't really talk about dreams and let alone lucid dreaming. So when you begin to talk to it, and sometimes people ask their children, have you ever become aware of dreaming while in the dream state? And they said, oh, yeah, I do it all the time. And they go, what? And so it's out there. It's just one of those lesser discussed issues.
Yeah, I'm curious because I have some thoughts, and I have your book with Caroline McCready. It's fantastic. We're going to definitely encourage people to get it, and your new book as well. Um, what are some of the most commonly reported lucid dreams?
Right. So again, in a lucid dream, you just realize within the dream that you're dreaming. Sometimes it occurs when there's something totally unusual going on. You find yourself in the wrong city or the wrong country or whatever, and you look around and how did I get here? And then you remember, oh, I must be dreaming because I've never been to France before, and here I am. But sometimes lucid dreams occur when we have recurring dreams or recurring nightmares. We're in it and we think, wait a second, I had this same experience in a dream 2 weeks ago. Oh, I must be dreaming now. And so sometimes during those recurring dreams or recurring nightmares, we become lucidly aware and then we realize, oh, I'm in a dream drama. And so now if I'm thoughtful, I can respond to it better and differently. But when it comes to lucid dreaming, it spans the entirety of dream experiences. Some lucid dreams, people are flying. Some lucid dreams, they're doing the impossible and realize, oh, this has to be a dream. But it just spans the limits of dream imagination.
I was asking because I remember in your book you mentioned somebody talking. It might have, I can't remember if it was you talking about dreams of flying or one of the people who responded to one of your surveys talking about that. But I mean that's certainly a type of lucid dream that I have had, and it went as you described it, which was pretty interesting because when I realized, oh wait a second, how am I flying? That was it. I dropped.
Right. And that's one thing that you realize in the lucid dream as you begin to have more and more of them. The lucid dream will reflect your thoughts and beliefs and expectations. So if you expect to fly easily, then you fly easily. But suddenly, if you have a little bit of fear or concern or believe that things are going to go awry, then suddenly you fall out of the sky or something happens. So that's part of the beauty of lucid dreaming is seeing how the mind helps to create perceived experience because that's truly a profound realization as you get into it.
I'm going to read a quote from, I have a few of them, but I'm going to read one that really I highlighted because I thought, wow. Because once you said it, I thought, well, of course, but I hadn't ever thought about it this way. And you said to succeed at lucid dreaming requires adopting broader and more flexible set of beliefs that see lucid dreaming as a mental environment with largely mental rules. And I thought, well, of course, but I think most of us forget that, um, you know, we're not bound by physical laws in our dreams.
Right. And so you have to realize that I taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975 when I was a junior in high school. And this was before the scientific evidence emerged in 1980. And so I had about 5 years there where I had to figure out things basically on my own. And that was one thing I realized, that the first time I wanted to go flying and I wanted to fly to the top of a tree, I thought, well, how do I do that in the dream? And so basically, I swam. I did the breaststroke and went higher and higher and higher and swam. But when I woke up in the morning, I thought, why did I use physical means in a mental environment of the dream? And that's when I began to realize that to really manipulate and influence the lucid dream requires basically manipulating the mind and understanding these mental guidelines, these mental principles that make things happen. And so after that, I got better and better at realizing that the physical approach doesn't make sense in the dream state. The mental approach makes sense.
Yeah, but I can imagine why it takes time to make that shift, even when we're sleeping, right?
Right? Because we carry those beliefs and expectations with us. And it's only after a number of lucid dreams we realize how unnecessary that is. And we begin to adopt a new set of guidelines and principles and beliefs when it comes to the lucid dream state.
Yeah. Something else you said uh, in the book that I thought was, again, it's so simple, but it's so profound. And you had great examples was every lucid dream has a lesson for the dreamer.
Right. That was something that you began to see over the course of time. And one experience that a lot of beginners have with lucid dreaming is they quickly discover that if you get too excited, you're going to pop out of the dream, out of the lucid dream. And so that's what I realized, that whatever happens, you have to stay calm, just have to go with it. So if you find Tom Cruise at your front door delivering pizza, don't get all excited. You know it's a dream. You know Tom Cruise is not delivering pizza yet, and don't get too excited and ask for an autograph and all that kind of thing. What you have to do is tell yourself calm down or look at the floor, something boring, and that's more likely to keep you in the lucid dream and allow you to explore and experiment within it.
Yeah, and we will definitely get to your tips for what to do and what not to do. For people who are newer to this concept, one of the things I wanted you to talk more about is some of the positive effects of lucid dreaming. Because, in your book, you were talking about really profound ways people could change for the better, really shape, it seems like, any aspect of their lives, internally and even externally. Can you talk about that?
Right, right. So I'd say for most of us lucid dreamers, we quickly understand that we can begin to access deeper levels of creativity. We're aware within the dream state, so we're aware within what most people would call the unconscious mind. And there we can begin to access amazing creativity. For example, I've had people tell me that they were fictional authors in waking life. And whenever they got stuck writing their novel, they would try to become lucidly aware. And when they became lucid, they would call on the novel characters to appear and explain to them how can we improve this novel, or what's wrong with this novel. And surprisingly, the novel characters would tell the writer, oh, you shouldn't kill grandma in chapter 3. We need her at the end of the story to express the deep family secret or whatever. But people are seeing that you can really access deep levels of creativity. Also, there's scientific evidence of using lucid dreaming to end recurring nightmares that are oftentimes associated with post traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. And this research occurred in the early 1980s. A therapist had his clients who had recurring nightmares. They hardly wanted to fall asleep because these recurring nightmares were so powerful. And he taught them that if they could become lucidly aware and change just one thing in the lucid dream, then we would see what happened. And his two clients who did that, both of them reported that immediately they no longer had recurring nightmares. And so now they were finally able to sleep. They didn't have to take substances to fall asleep, and it resolved a lot of the issues surrounding the PTSD. So again, you can see that, but what I hear from lucid dreamers is they're also using it to resolve phobias, um, obsessive compulsive issues. They're working through sometimes emotional trauma in their lucid dreams and having profound effects. And so there is a lot of potential here, I think, for emotional healing that people really don't understand. And finally, I'd go on to say that there are reports of people using it for physical healing as well, because sometimes people have issues that the medical establishment just can't resolve. There's not any drugs, there's not any treatment, and they just have to live with it. And some of them get upset with that notion and decide in a lucid dream to try to direct healing energy. And some of them wake with profound changes. So it's like they're at this deep level of the psyche and they're changing things and they notice the resulting impact. But you can go on with that. There's interacting with a larger awareness within lucid dreams, which is something I discovered after 10 years of lucid dreaming. You can also perform spiritual practices in lucid dreams and have profound effects because lucid dreaming has also been connected with long traditions, spiritual wisdom traditions who have used lucid dreaming to engage at deeper levels. So there's a lot of possibilities and potentials here.
Huge, absolutely. In terms of spiritual experiences people can have, is there more you want to say about that, or are there examples that really struck you as
Right.
profound?
I'd probably been lucid dreaming for 20 years, and a friend wrote me and asked me if I'd ever meditated in a lucid dream. And so I thought, boy, I've never done that. And so the following week, I was walking down the trail, realized, wait a second, what am I doing here? And knew it was a dream. And then I remembered my friend's interest in what would happen if you meditated in a lucid dream. And what happened to me, I sat down on the trail, put my feet in a half lotus position, and I began to empty my mind. And so as I began to empty my mind, something strange happened though. The dream scene, it was like it was being ripped away. Parts of it were being ripped away, and this brilliant white light was coming through the rips. And, and so after about 30 seconds of that, I shook myself out of the meditation and thought, maybe I should close my eyes. And so I closed my eyes,
In the
and I have
dream?
to say, pardon?
Sorry, you close your eyes in the dream?
In the lucid dream, yeah,
Okay.
I closed my eyes, and so now it's dark, and now I'm meditating by emptying my mind. And I have to tell you, within 20 or 30 seconds, I was having the most kind of transcendent experience of kind of a sense of oneness and all. It was really stunning. But the interesting thing, later, many years later, I was on a panel with some Buddhist dream yoga practitioners and others, and when I told the story about how the dream screen began to get ripped away as I emptied my mind in meditation, they said that in their tradition, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. When you meditate within a lucid dream, you're supposed to come to a realization of kind of base awareness, the light of base awareness, which they would call Rigpa. That's behind phenomenal reality. And they were truly stunned that someone had managed to do this the first time. But again, what lucid dreamers report is meditating within a lucid dream oftentimes leads to profound experiences, profound feelings. And then they notice that if they do it a lot in their lucid dreams, that then their waking meditation changes. What used to take them 20 minutes to get down to a certain level, now after they've meditated in lucid dreams 5 or 6 or 7 times, now they're getting there in 5 or 6 minutes. And so it
Wow.
seems like there might be the chance that meditating within a lucid dream kind of takes out some of the resistance or some of the issues and now allows you to get to a deeper level more quickly.
As you're talking about that, I'm imagining you in the dream meditating, quite literally or symbolically, but in a literal way, emptying your mind. And it's kind of mind blowing because, this is going to sound like a little bit of a tangent, but I was in my car yesterday. A podcast came on that I don't subscribe to, but I had heard before, and Dean Radin was on. And I know you've spoken at Ions, and so I know all of these things are interconnected. but he was talking about meditation and how people struggle so much with it and how it can take 20, 30 years for someone to achieve the level of proficiency that he was talking about, and linked to just being a better person overall, but also being more intuitive and so forth. But it's so interesting, the thought of using lucid dreaming as a tool to do something
Right.
better in your waking life.
Right. It's interesting. I don't think people expected this kind of transfer, but the transfer did occur. Also, I should say there's different types of meditation. So sometimes lucid dreamers report chanting a mantra in a lucid dream, and sometimes it's like 1,000 people are chanting with them suddenly. Or sometimes they'll be chanting a mantra and a figure will appear that explains to them that they're not chanting it exactly correctly and then helps them with their pronunciation. And so that's how interesting it is when you're aware within the dream state. Sometimes things occur that truly shock a person.
Really amazing. It's going to sound like I'm jumping around slightly, but I want to touch on some of the things that you said a few moments ago. Healing, physical healing, especially when there isn't what's being offered in the physical realm, in the daytime realm, isn't enough to afford somebody relief. I'm not even talking about healing per se, like complete healing, although sometimes that happens. But you had a case of a healing in your book. And I, I said, I have to read from this because it's more profound than I could summarize it. And you wrote, Annie had painful plantar warts on each foot. Each step of each and every step she took hurt. Nothing seemed to make the plantar warts go away. One day, the teacher of her lucid dreaming group told her of his own successes with healing the physical body while lucid dreaming. He suggested she give it a try in her next lucid dream, and so she did. Annie recalls her healing lucid dream, and she said, something about the light seems strange. I think of my feet because they are hurting me as I walk. So I sit down on a cube, like a wooden cube. Then I remember that I can heal my feet in a lucid dream. At that moment, all of the surrounding room drops away to a black void where I sit. I recall using a ball of white light as I had been visualizing before going to sleep. Sure enough, the white light appears around my hands. I put my hands on my feet, first the right one. The light enters the foot and glows golden from within. I hold it there for several seconds and then move to the left foot. Same process. I put both feet down and realize I had done what I had incubated. It seems amazing and terrifying. That feeling is so intense, I woke up. Before this night, Annie could not walk without feeling pain from 6 plantar warts. In the morning, after the lucid dream, she examined her feet. All the warts had turned black during the night. Within 10 days, they all fell off and did not return. She could now walk healed and free of pain.
Right. So I think that just shows at this deep level of awareness, if you have healing intent and kind of know the process to move forward here, you do seem able to affect the physical body. It's interesting too that there's research by Stephen LaBerge, who's kind of the father of lucid dreaming research out at Stanford and all. And what he would do, he kind of explored the proof of the concept. I don't think he was thinking about healing. He just wanted to understand lucid dreaming. So he had examples of experiments. He would have people signal that they were aware within the dream. And then he told them, clench your right fist and then your left fist in an alternating pattern. And he had these measures on their forearm to see if there was any muscle movement. And sure enough, they'd signal with their eyes that they were lucidly aware. They would begin the experiment. And what would show up on the meter is this alternating muscle movement, left, right, left, right. So you can see there kind of the proof of concept that in a lucid dream, the physical body can be affected by the intent of the lucid dreamer. And now, if we just take that into the medical realm, and you begin to see these incredible stories of people who apparently have healed issues in their lucid dream.
It's so powerful because you wouldn't know because we haven't met before today, but my listeners may know that most of the patients that I had seen for years were medically ill patients, often with conditions that were not going to completely resolve necessarily, even with the best of medical care. And so people were left juggling a lot of different symptoms. One of the tools I use a lot is hypnosis and guided imagery. But I'm struck by the similarity in terms of accessing this deeper part of the self that can affect changes in the body, not in the mind as well. Um,
Right. I recall another story of a woman who was a really a fantastic lucid dreamer, and she developed out of control menstrual bleeding. And her doctor said, "Look, if this isn't resolved in a week or so, we're going to have a hysterectomy here, and I want to avoid that. And so, if there's anything you can do to resolve this, that'd be great." She said it continued on, and she decided to have a lucid dream. And in the lucid dream, she remembered her intent to heal her out of control bleeding. And so, what she did, she put healing energy into her hand, and her plan was that she would put her dream hand into her dream uterus and stop the bleeding. But then she had this kind of sudden insight from what she would consider her inner self or inner awareness, that first she needed to heal her heart.
oh,
And that's what she did first. She put the healing energy on her heart, and then she went ahead with her plan. And she said when she woke up, the bleeding had stopped, and the doctor said, "Oh, no more bleeding. Then we don't have to worry about these alternative plans." But but you're right. Sometimes there's issues involved that sometimes are a little bit surprising that the lucid dreamer, of course, didn't expect. And I think in that particular case, kind of shows an example.
yeah, I mean, you can see how I'm feeling very moved as I'm hearing this. I mean, just the fact that whether it's a part of her or some other intelligence, I'm not sure, and we should talk about that. Said first you have to heal your heart, and as a psychologist, I can think about the connection between the uterus and the heart, certainly, and um, that blows me away. That's what her psyche, or I don't know if it's her psyche. I don't know if that's a guide. What do you think? What do you think that intelligence is, or where does it come from?
Yeah, I call my first book "Lucid Dreaming: Gateway to the Inner Self" because something surprising happened to me as I was into lucid dreaming after 10 years. I was part of an experimental group. Every month we had a goal to achieve, and this went on for 3 years. And so I had a lot of fun with all the different experimental goals. But one month it was to find out what the dream figures represent. And so that month, I became lucidly aware within the dream. I remembered the goal. Oh, yeah, I need to find out what the dream figures represent. Followed a woman into an office. Now there's three women there and an older gentleman in a three-piece suit. And I walk up to him in my Midwest way and say, "Excuse me, what do you represent?" And then something surprising happened, Tracy. I expected the dream figure just to tell me what he represented. But instead, from high above him, a voice boomed out a partial response. And it didn't make complete sense. And so I looked up and I said what I'd heard and asked, "What?" And then it's like that voice had to think about it. And then it boomed out the full response of what this gentleman represented. And so I decided, okay, I've resolved this goal that I had for the month. I'm going to wake up and write it down. But the next morning, I began to wonder, is there an awareness behind the dream? Is there a inner self or a responsive unconscious mind or something? And so from that stage on, in a lot of my lucid dreams, I would ignore the dream figures, ignore the dream setting, and just look up and ask a question of this unconscious mind. And what surprised me was sometimes I would hear an auditory response in that would answer the question. Sometimes the entire lucid dream would change in response and show it to me symbolically. And that really surprised me. That's when I began to think, is there really an inner awareness that a lucid dreamer can engage in their lucid dream?
Yeah, it's really mind blowing stuff. Um, And the fact that we are born with this potential tool that most people don't even know is there, let alone that it's something that they can use. And honestly, I still don't know if, if most people would think of it as their unconscious mind, their higher self, some divine, because there are times in dreams where something does feel divine
Right, right.
or
And
not.
there's a lot of regular dreams where a non-visible voice will explain something or give advice or whatever. And so I also had those kind of concerns because, again, I'm kind of exploring uncharted waters without really a guide. And so it's interesting. Well, like an example of another lucid dreaming group, they were to find out a big issue in the lucid dream, to find the beginning and end of the universe. And to me, that's a big, kind of conceptual issue. And so this woman, a really fantastic lucid dreamer, becomes aware, looks at a mirror, and announces, "Now show me the beginning and end of the universe." And then she hears this non visible voice reply, "The universe has no beginning and has no end. The universe is an everlasting cycle." And the reason I bring this up is to say that oftentimes the lucid dreamer will not get a response that they expect. Instead, they'll get something that refutes the basic premise of their query and offers an alternative solution. There's other examples. A good friend of mine, Ed Kellogg, he's a fantastic lucid dreamer, wanted to explore modern quantum physics in lucid dreams. And so in modern physics, there's this idea of string theory. And so he became lucidly aware, ignored the dream figures, and announced, "By the power of Alka-Hest, let a superstring manifest." And and suddenly he hears this non-visible voice tell him that he's not ready for an experience of this profound nature. And then the voice encourages him to come back when he seems less focused and distracted. And he said, in the lucid dream, there was a woman in a swimsuit, off to the side and all this kind of stuff. But the reason I bring that up is that also I've seen this where this non-visible awareness is concerned about the lucid dreamer's ability to handle what they're asking to handle. So again, when you begin to add this all up, I think you begin to see the characteristics of an inner responsiveness that are concerned about the lucid dreamer, has some deeper understanding beyond the lucid dreamers, and also occasionally can provide advice and insight that's truly amazing.
It really is truly amazing. It's funny because I don't normally, believe it or not, quote a million things from somebody's book. So you can imagine my process here because but again, I think it illustrates so much better than I can encapsulate so many of the profound things that you're talking about, and I think people can relate or envision what you're talking about even better from a lot of the things you talk about and the people who've shared their experiences. It almost seems like less, impactful now because you've talked about these very, high level spiritual experiences. But it strikes me that in everyday life, and again, there is a hypnotic parallel because there are techniques to do something similar in hypnosis.
Right.
But I'm just thinking of, finding the answers to questions when the answers have eluded our waking minds, and finding that being in the lucid dream who can be of help. So this was something you mentioned, a software engineer who used lucid dreaming to work out a difficult code. Now I'm not a software engineer. I can only imagine how difficult it is if it's difficult for the software engineer. But this person went into his dream, called for Albert Einstein to join him and work out the code. And then upon awakening, he got an answer. They worked it out together. Upon awakening, the engineer wrote down the code and it worked. And this is something that I guess he said he uses quite a lot, and 99% of the time it's spot on.
Right, right. Yeah, that was from a book by Stephen LaBerge, an account sent to him by a lucid dreamer. But again, you do find people working on real world problems within the lucid dream state. And being able to access this kind of larger sense of awareness or this larger sense of creativity, sometimes it truly is profound. The interesting thing, though, is in regular dreams, there's plenty of examples of profound scientific advancements. Like if you go to I think it's the 2013 University of Michigan graduation commencement ceremony, there you'll hear Larry Page, who got a PhD in computer and software programming there, announce that his idea for Google occurred to him when he was within a dream while he was a PhD student at the University of Michigan. And he said he woke up and spent hours writing down all the ideas that were coming to him. So again, we see in regular dreaming creativity occur. But the beautiful thing about lucid dreaming is because we know it's a dream, we can experiment and explore within that dream state and begin to seek out creativity instead of just waiting for it to spontaneously happen.
Absolutely. Now, I want to ask you, you've talked about meditating in your dream and how successful that was and how it can improve meditation outside of the dreaming world. Mike, I have a question though. Do regular meditators do better, or are they more, or is it easier for them to lucid dream?
Now that's a wonderful question, and I would say there's mixed results because meditation describes a vast set of issues and approaches. Uh, One thing that I've noticed in my teaching people in my 30-day online workshops is that meditators are great at stabilizing the lucid dream once they become lucidly aware. And part of that is not getting too excited and a number of things like that. So having a stable mind gets reflected in the lucid dream and allows for greater stability there. Um, I do recall one time, though, having a woman, and so now we're moving into kind of a psi aspect, but
Yay.
but she was in my online class, and she told me she was there because she was a longtime Buddhist practitioner, and had heard that my class would has helped a lot of people learn how to lucid dream. So so after a couple of weeks, she still hadn't had a lucid dream, and so I asked her, "Well, what's your goal? What's your intent in lucid dreaming?" And she replied, and this really stunned me. She said, "If I become lucid, I want to send healing energy to my mother who's at a nursing home in Vienna."
Oh, wow.
And I go, "Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of extra attention here." The next week, she had three lucid dreams. The first lucid dream, she got so excited she woke up. And so that's kind of a typical beginner thing. But in the next two lucid dreams, she did exactly what I said. And I said, "What is space in a lucid dream?" It's basically an ideational concept. And so you don't have to find your mother in a lucid dream. Just become lucidly aware, stabilize the lucid dream, and then just do this. Announce that you're sending healing energy to your mother. Just do that. Just put out your hands and just trust that the healing energy will go as it should. She said she did this two times in her lucid dreams that week. And after the second time, the next morning, the phone rang and it was her mother. And her mother said, "You better sit down because I have some great news." And the woman says, "What happened?" And the grandmother said, or the mother said, "For the first time in 2.5 years, all of my bed sores have healed up. For the first time, I feel no pain." And this woman was just truly stunned because, again, these were her first three lucid dreams, but she was a meditator, and also she listened to the advice and did what I suggested. And also she had a belief in it as well. So she didn't have, sometimes lucid dreamers, they want to do experiments, but all of a sudden their conflicting beliefs, their doubts suddenly appear and get in the way to muck things up. But in her particular case, she had a very clear intent, no doubts, no disbelief, no conflict, and was able to achieve what she wanted to achieve. So again, this is really an interesting thing to kind of have people share these experiences because it kind of shows that at a different level of the mind, at a different level of the psyche, things might be achievable that basically the waking ego conscious self has a hard time dealing with.
It's really amazing, and it seems like one of the highest forms of using, whether it's lucid dreaming or some other practice, right? To wish for the healing of another, just to be a force for good in the world,
Right.
whether it starts in the dreaming state or in the waking state. And I love that. Um, Sai, I'm glad you mentioned that element because it's like, and it's such a broad umbrella. So, you know, I'm just thinking for people listening, sight can mean, perceiving something at a distant in space and time, right? That you have no other way of knowing, but also to affect change, like to affect matter
Right.
beyond your own body. How common is it for people to report an uptick in either, you know, precognitive dreams from doing lucid dreaming or just precognitive experiences or just kind of cases of knowing without knowing how they know or some other psychokinetic effect, whether healing or something else?
You, you know, I wouldn't say there's a direct correlation. What got me interested in dreaming as a child was having precognitive dreams. In the dream, hearing a funny little statement, and then 5 hours later, being on the playground with my 8-year-old friends and hearing that funny little statement said again. And I thought, wait a second, I dreamt that this morning, and now I'm hearing that. And so that's what got me connected to this. But I haven't seen it so much with lucid dreaming. Here's what you do see that is kind of side connected. Um, so you're having a normal dream, and all of a sudden you see a deceased relative or a deceased loved one. And you go, wait a second, that person passed away 10 years ago. I went to the funeral. Oh, this must be a dream. I'm dreaming this. But again, here's where I encourage people it might be a symbol, a projection of your own mental energy, your loss or your remembrance or whatever, or it might be something else. And because of that, if you're in a lucid dream, you can ask a question. And my open-ended question is, what do you have to say to me? What do you have to tell me? And so, like, this happened to me, I think it was on January 1st of 2022. I'm in a dream, and around the corner comes my mother-in-law, Nona, who passed away about uh, probably 12 years earlier. And at first I started to laugh because I think finally she's come to visit me after 12 years now. But I became lucidly aware, and so I asked her. I said, "Nona, what do you have to tell me?" And she looks at me very seriously and says, "I want you to understand that September is a very important month." And I began to laugh and I said, "No, if you believe September is important, I'm sure it's important." And she goes, "No, I want you to understand that September is going to be a very important month." And so I took that in and decided to wake up and write it down. When I woke up, I told my wife, I said, "Your mom came. She appeared like she was 40 years old, and it even looked like she had sewn the dress that she was wearing in the lucid dream." But I said, "I think she's trying to tell me that my mom is going to pass away in September." And so I told my wife, I go, "Look, at the end of August, we're going to drive 8 hours to my hometown and see my mom." Anyway, August comes, we drive 8 hours to see my mom, have a nice weekend visiting with my mom. And then the next weekend, the first weekend of September, she passes away
Oh my
of a heart
God.
attack. So, so again, you wonder, is is there that kind of energy, people in the, what would you'd call a visitation dream of someone, or is it that my unconscious knowing just created my mother-in-law Nona in order to gain my attention and kind of prepare me for this idea that my mom would pass away in 9 months? So again, that's probably the area that you notice the most from lucid dreamers interacting with deceased loved ones, sometimes who come with information that they can wake up and verify. And for a lot of them, that's really profound because many of them have not really developed a spiritual tradition or a wisdom tradition or anything like that. And suddenly to have this information come to them that they verify upon waking uh, really rocks their foundation.
It is so profound. Um, And, it's funny because I almost feel like there's nothing I could say now to follow that dream that you shared that would do it justice. Um,
No, it's truly beautiful, and I think it shows the complexity of the self. And years ago, it was 1900 or 1899. Sigmund Freud wrote the interpretation of dreams, and then later Carl Jung came along and added his aspects to it. But I still think that we're really on a deep level trying to understand the nature of the psyche and how deep and profound it is. And I know psychologists and psychotherapists get to see it firsthand. That they'll see sudden things change and the psyche resolve a problem and not, and then all this energy come rushing forward. In lucid dreams, sometimes it happens just incredibly powerfully. For example, one night I became lucidly aware when I found myself in a farmhouse and the farm wife was putting beans on my plate. And I looked around and I thought, I don't live in a farmhouse and I'm not married to a farm wife. But at that moment, I noticed there was energy behind me. And so Carl Jung had this idea that the shadow, which was the denied, ignored, repressed parts of the self, oftentimes is in the shadow's position in the dream state. It's behind you because you're ignoring it, you can feel it, but and oftentimes it's what's chasing you or whatever. You never look around to see it, you just run from it. So anyway, because I knew, oh, this is a dream and there's energy behind me in the shadow position, I'm going to turn around and see what's there. So I spin around and it's a lovely young black woman smiling at me. And so I pick her up and I put her in front of me and I ask her, lucidly aware, who are you? Who are you? And she says, I am a discarded aspect of yourself. And so I think, well, what do you do with a discarded aspect of yourself that you're now meeting in a lucid dream? And so I think, well, if she's discarded, she wants to be accepted. And so from my heart, I just send total acceptance, total acceptance. And as I do that, she begins to get smaller and smaller. She starts to shrink. And I keep saying, and then I decided just to send her complete acceptance. And when I did that, the most amazing thing happened. Suddenly, with complete acceptance, she burst into light, and that light energy came into me because basically I'm the projector of that mental energy. And now that I've accepted it, it comes into me. I wake up in the morning and energetically, I feel different. I just feel like I am a different person now. Something happened in that lucid dream. And then I thought, well, what is it? What discarded aspect? What did that mean? And then it was about 7 days later, I thought, oh my God, ever since that dream, I've been thinking about that project to write a book on lucid dreaming, the project I discarded a year ago because I got in 50 pages and just hit a wall. And I thought, oh, that's what I'm reintegrating with that energy of that discarded project. And then I was able to write my first book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self. So again, it's beautiful what lucid dreaming shows us about the nature of the psyche, about how to work through psychological issues and conflicts. I've seen the importance of not running away from fears, but going to them, figuring out what needs to be resolved here. What's the inner issue? What's the belief? What's the limiting concept that needs to be overcome? Because if you're not careful, even in lucid dreams, you can stay in your comfort zone. And whenever you have conflict or fear, oh, you just go back to your comfort zone. And I realize you can't grow as a lucid dreamer, as a person, if you just keep running away from these issues. You've got to resolve them. You got to resolve them. And it showed me that you can go very deep in resolving these things. And as you do so, you free up energy for your creative pursuits. And you also become less afraid of your environment and more able to explore deeply and with intent.
wow. So incredible. Now, Robert, I should ask you the steps to becoming a lucid dreamer because you're describing all these incredible things.
Right.
Can most people with practice and training become lucid dreamers, and what would they need to do?
Right. It does take some dedication. I think most anyone can be an amateur and have some experiences and understand what I'm saying. But One thing that I'd really encourage people to consider is the power of suggestion. And so, like, making this kind of suggestion before they go to sleep. Tonight in my dreams, I'll be more consciously aware. And when I notice anything strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So tonight in my dreams, I'll be more consciously aware. And when I notice anything strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. And so you're out at the park with your children, and all of a sudden the Queen of England walks by, and you think, wait a second, what is the Queen of England doing in my park and in my small town? And that's so strange. You go, oh, wait, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this. So sometimes just the power of suggestion, just repeating that over and over before you go to sleep, is all that you need to do. Another approach that I used back in 1975 when I first taught myself how to lucid dream, I was reading a book where the author said that you could find your hands in the dream and become aware that you're dreaming. So there really wasn't a technique. So I just invented my own technique because I knew about the power of suggestion. Each night before I'd go to sleep, I'd just look at the palms of my hands and I'd tell myself, tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. I just say that repeatedly. On the third night, I'm walking through my high school hallway, and I was in high school back at that time, and suddenly my hands popped right in front of my face. And I go, oh my God, these are my hands. This is a dream. And it was so amazing to realize that I existed within the mental creation of a dream. And so I touched the nearby wall, felt cool and nubby, just like a wall should feel. But I knew this was a dream. And I went on to have an incredible lucid dream. So that would be another technique for a person who's just totally new and wants to have something to hand. Just make your hands the symbol that this is a dream. So see your hands. If you're climbing a ladder, see your hands. This is a dream. Open up a door, see your hands. This is a dream. You just make the sight of your hands the symbol that pushes forward that realization. This is a dream.
So affirm is your affirmation is the first thing. Looking at your hands.
Would be a second simple technique for someone to get started on the lucid dreaming path. But it takes persistence. Play with it. Don't make it into work. I mean, have fun with it and see what happens.
Keep a dream journal.
Having good dream recall and having a dream journal is important. One thing I've found out about a dream journal is oftentimes I'll be in the dream state and I'll go, wait a second, I saw that figure last week. Oh, that was in a dream. Oh, this must be a dream because I'm seeing the same figure again. So that's one of the values of having a dream journal, besides just becoming aware of what's going on at inner levels of yourself.
And things people should avoid. I know you said don't get too excited when you see something because that can pop you out of the dream.
Right. Yeah. So stay calm. When you become lucid, you might want to enhance your awareness. So you can do that by touching a nearby object and kind of grounding yourself in the space. You might want to rub your hands together. And even though they're dream hands, you'll have this sense of your kind of kinesthetic system being activated and making the space kind of more real. And then the final thing is you have to maintain your focus, because as you go around exploring in a lucid dream, you'll see something that's so amazing that you'll get so captivated and entranced by it that you'll just return to regular dreaming. So you're lucidly aware for 2 minutes, but then you got so entranced by the dream, you return to regular dreaming. So if you could do those three things, that'll really help you. But once you establish that, then you can think, what was my goal? And, oh, I wanted to heal my bad knee, or, oh, I wanted to explore some issue, or whatever it is. I wanted to meditate. Uh, that's how simple it can be. But of course, we're humans and we make things very complex in the process.
And excellent tips. And you go into more detail in your books, which people should absolutely check out because they're so engaging. I mean, you write in such an approachable and engaging style. So, I mean, they're fascinating, even if you weren't trying to accomplish something by the end, but you can learn more about the process. You also teach people in workshops or privately to do lucid dreaming.
Yeah, I prefer workshops because of the group energy and all. And I think with IONS here in May, we'll be having another 30-day workshop. but it's a lot of fun. And but you're right, you can read the books and start your own practice whenever you want.
So, Robert, is there anything that I didn't ask you or we haven't covered that is important for us to cover?
No, I think we've done a wonderful job of getting around it and all. But I do want to emphasize the point that this is a scientifically validated phenomenon. That there's been lots of research done on lucid dreaming. It's accepted all around the world, and these deeper aspects of it, though, are a little bit harder for the science of psychology to explore. It's kind of like science has a net that doesn't catch all fish. And that's kind of these deeper aspects are a little bit harder to catch. But the beautiful thing is that lucid dreaming is a well established scientific fact and has been used to help with recurring nightmares from PTSD and other things. But these deeper aspects, that's for the explorer in all of us to engage for themselves.
Beautifully said. I so appreciate your time today and you sharing your wisdom and expertise and everything you've learned. Where is the best place for people to reach you to learn more about you and your workshops and your books and so forth?
Yeah, you can always go to Lucid, Lucid, lucidadvice.com. That's oftentimes will show what I'm up to. Also in my free online magazine that I co-edit with my friend Lucy at luciddreamingmagazine.com. You can read the last 20 years of our magazine for free. And the reason why I have a magazine is just to inspire and educate people about the vastness of lucid dreaming, because it's really like exploring an alternative universe. It's the universe of the mind.
Amazing. And I'll put the links in the show notes as well. Robert Waggoner, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've learned a lot. It's been fascinating. I really appreciate you and your time.
Oh, thanks, Traci. It's been fun.
Okay. Well, this has been another episode of Unpacking Possibility. If you enjoyed the episode, and I know you did, please remember to like, share, follow, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. And of course, as always, until next time.